Hello everyone, Fearfire here with my Graves Guide, and to start things off, I'll talk about how I view his strengths at the moment and how I think he is fitting into the current metagame and whatnot. So I think he's really strong. First of all, he has a lot of early game burst, and he scales well into late game with his ratios, so he's definitely a viable pick right now. I think he's one of the stronger ADs just because his built-in escape mechanism, the fact that he counters other ADs with his smoke screen, and his burst, his AoE, he could easily push, easily farm. He could just abuse the fact that the enemy leaves the lane if they ever try to get a dragon or something on you. You could push the tower really quickly. And of course he has a built-in escape mechanism, so he's very strong at the moment. I wouldn't be surprised if they nerfed his early game burst. Anyway, on to building him. So for runes, I take armor penetration reds and flat damage quintessences to last hit and harass easier, and then I take mana regen yellows. You could take armor if you want, but I take mana regen so that I could, again, use his abilities more often and always have enough mana to use my dash to get away. And then for blues, I take magic resist, just so that magic resist per level, so that in team fights I don't get insta killed by their assassins or AP carries, as he is going to be towards the front lines. And then for masteries, I do 21-09, and you can't really switch too much up here. Definitely 21 in offense, taking improved exhaust, and then in utility, I'd put the last point in gold just because he's so item reliant that you want to get those items as quickly as possible. And exhaust flash is going to be your, or are going to be your summoner spells most of the time, unless they have multiple healers. Then maybe take ignite if someone else hasn't. So first of all, I'm going to talk about his abilities. So his passive is True Grit, and he gets at max level, it scales throughout the game, but by the time you get to level 18 or somewhere around there, you're going to be getting 4 bonus magic resistance and armor every second, up to 10 times as you are in combat. So if you've attacked someone or gotten hit in the last 4 seconds, it'll keep your passive up, so you'll get 40 extra armor and magic resist in team fights basically. So it works well with him because he is a close range AD champion. He'll dash in, do a buckshot, do his ultimate, and he has 550 range on his basic attack, so it's definitely possible to play him as a standard AD carry. You just won't be able to abuse his skill set as well. And then onto his actual abilities. His Q is buckshot. It fires 3 bullets in a cone, and it deals physical damage to all enemies in their path. Enemies at close range can be hit by more than one, but they deal slightly reduced damage. And it has pretty good scaling into late game. It's like 0.8 per bonus attack damage, so pretty powerful. And then his W is smoke screen. It launches this little canister of smoke that stays wherever it lands for 5 seconds. Enemies in it are slowed and have slightly reduced range, or quite a bit reduced range, kind of like when you're under the effects of Nocturne's ultimate. And it slows them at the same time. And then his E is quick draw, where he just dashes forward and he gets an attack speed boost for 4 seconds. At max level, it's 80% attack speed, and every time he auto attacks, just in general, it reduces the cooldown of this ability by 1 second. So, and at max level, its cooldown is like 14 seconds. So, you could just use it and then use the attack speed steroid that you get from it to get it off cooldown again, so you could just be constantly dashing in team fights. So here Warwick ganks us, and again our early game burst is just insane, and then Warwick's red dot finishes him off. And then anyway, onto his ultimate, which is called collateral damage, and he just shoots. It's a skill shot, and he shoots this giant explosive shell in a straight line, and it deals a lot of damage to the first enemy that it hits, or at the end of its range, at the end of the line, at the end of the skill shot, it'll just go off, and then it'll do like a cone of damage behind it when it goes off, so hitting even more people. I think it could hit the same person multiple times if like they were standing on it and then were like running away, so it hit them again. Anyway, here we get ganked by the Fed Zerath because our Karthus is failing mid. Anyway, Sona can't get away, but I could just dash, and then Karthus teleports in instead of just pushing mid, which is what he should have done, since obviously Zerath wasn't there. Anyway, so yeah, his ultimate, it scales really well. It's above 1-to-1 with bonus attack damage, so even late game you'll be able to deal insane amounts of damage with it. And here we get in a fight, and I think my ultimate hits the wall, and it just goes off and kills Graves, and I die in the process. I could have gotten out of that. That was dumb of me. Anyway, so one last thing on his ultimate. The base damage on it, like when it first goes off, is 500 at max level, and then the explosion is a base of 400 at max level with the cone of damage afterwards. So very powerful skill. That's, I mean, 900 damage. So you want to use it. You want to try to hit their squishies with it is the most important thing. And whether you could do that by like shooting it at the tank and then having it blast back and kill their squishies, or you just have to walk around them and then use it on their carries to deal damage to them. Either way, you want to make sure that it's damaging obviously the squishies. Anyway, here we just came in and ganked Graves, and then Nocturne and Xerath came. But I have my Wriggles and my Infinity Edge now, so I easily killed Graves when I got my crit from Infinity Edge, and then those next two were no match for us, even though we weren't at full health, just because of Wriggles. It's so strong on him. Here we have like a little team fight, and then we back off. And then Leona starts to head down, so we're like, oh wait, it's probably a 4v5, we should go back in. And then we see like one of us is bot lane. Anyway, so here's Leona coming back up, and we go back in, and I'm like, oh, this is horrible. So you could dash over small walls like that, and I'm fine, but we lose this team fight just because we're focusing the tanks the whole time. As an AD carry, it's okay to focus the tanks if it's the only one you could hit, but as Graves, you definitely want to be trying to go around the enemy team and hit their squishies, or just dash in, hit their squishies, and then dash out, or something like that. Anyway, I'll talk about the build that I use on him now, and this is the build I would recommend using without a doubt. I've seen it on lots of other Graves, including some of the best ones that I've seen, and in high elo, the Graves that I've seen, I mean not personally, but from watching streams, they all they all build this way also, which is Wriggles first, and then Boots, which are either Berserker's Greaves or Boots of Swiftness, depending on how comfortable you feel with him. He is very reliant on positioning, so having the extra movement speed helps immensely. So I would recommend Swiftness. So Wriggles and then Swiftness, and the reason you go Wriggles is just because it gives you so much sustain bottom lane, because you have armor and lifesteal, and a permanent ward for your lane at the same time. It's just really strong, and at the same time you're going to be able to take objectives or Dragon and Baron and buffs quicker and push a lane quicker if they leave to like go try to take a buff or something themselves. So Wriggles is just very important. You're going to be taking damage as Graves, and that's the reason that he has the passive bonus armor and magic resist, is because you're going to be up close and personal, and you're going to be taking damage, so you're going to need some sustain, which we get from Wriggles instead of Bloodthirster, because even a fully stacked Bloodthirster won't fit into the rest of the build as well as a Wriggles will. So after Wriggles and Boots, you go Infinity Edge, Phantom Dancer, because those two items combine to give you the most damage per gold, which is why almost all AD carries get those, at least eventually. And Graves is no exception. This allows us to have a lot of damage, over 100 bonus damage, which scales really well into late game and with our abilities, which is even more than you'd have from just a straight up Bloodthirster, and at the same time you're getting all the effects of a Phantom Dancer, the effects of the passive from Infinity Edge, which just gives you over 100 extra damage per second, and at the same time you have just as much sustain because of Wriggles. Less lifesteal but more armor. Anyway, it's more expensive, but it definitely pays for itself because you're able to again take objectives like Dragon and Baron faster. So yeah, to sum things up, Wriggles, and then Boots of Swiftness, and then Infinity Edge, Phantom Dancer is definitely the way to go, at least in my opinion, on Graves. I have tried Bloodthirster, Phantom Dancer, and I'm not gonna lie, it's annoying to have to farm minions every time after you die, and you are going to die on Graves more than any other AD carry, I'd say, but you just have to make sure you get all of your damage offers. I mean, obviously don't try to die, but the enemy's first reaction is to go for the AD carry. I mean, assuming you're playing against intelligent people, they're going to go for the AD carry, because over the course of a team fight, the AD carry is going to have the most damage. He's going to put out the highest steady damage. And on Graves, you're kind of close to them, which is why you want to keep your dash off cooldown as much as possible. You kind of want to like dash in ultimate if the time is right, if they're like stacked up close to each other. If not, then just Q someone, use your W, your smoke screen on the AD carries, and then slowly move back out, dashing if you need to. And yeah, just let your passive take up and then run back in again once people have blown their CC. Anyway, yeah, so Phantom Dancer and Bloodthirster, it's good. It's less damage and less sustain early game, and unless you have Bloodthirster fully stacked, it's actually not even going to be as much sustain during a team fight as it wriggles. I mean, at least if you don't have it stacked at all. So that's all I really have to say about his build. I mean, you could play around with it yourself. So for leveling up your abilities, definitely max Q first, and then I max dash just because its cooldown is reduced dramatically at each level, like 2 seconds, which is really noticeable. And the attack speed steroid is just too good to pass up leveling. So we take that, and also his smoke screen is really only useful late game when you're in team fights. I mean, it's useful in team fights mostly, which happen a lot more late game than early game, obviously. So, and of course, get the ultimate whenever you can. And then for your goal in team fights, I already talked about this, but just to review, you're going to try to... It's all about lining up the perfect ultimate on him, which is why we get Phantom Dancer and the extra movement speed boots, so that you're just able to get the best positioning possible in all fights. And your goal is to hit the squishies in the back, the AD, the AP carries, and the support. And if you could do this by also hitting the tanks, then fine. If like their tank is just leading the 5 of them through the jungle, and they come upon you guys sitting in a bush, ult the tank, sure, because the secondary effect, the cone of damage from your ultimate will still hit all of their squishies and stuff. But otherwise, you're gonna want to maybe like attack the tank a couple times to get your passive, starting to proc up so that you're in combat, and then walk around the enemy team, which will take like a second or two if you're fighting in the jungle, and if not, then you're gonna just have to wait until CC gets blown and then go in, dash in, use your ultimate and your Q on the squishies, and then dash back out, because you'll have insane attack speed, so you'll be able to dash right back out very quickly again. So early and mid game, you're just going to focus on farming. Obviously, on all AD carries, it's important, and Graves is no exception. He can take objectives like Baron and Dragon very early. He could solo Dragon too. I'd say around level 11. It might be sooner. I don't really remember how early I was going to do it. You have to have your wriggles for it, and decently high level of your dash, and then you just basically dash forward, hit him a bunch, and hope that wriggles procs somewhat often. And then late game in team fights, again, you just need to wait until lots of the CC is blown by the enemy team. They use it on your tank or something, because you are going to be getting up close and personal, like I said before. And if you get stun locked or something, you're just going to drop, and you definitely don't want that to happen. So in these examples, sorry I haven't been talking too much about them. I've just been talking about Graves and how I build and play him. This was one where I went Bloodthirster, Phantom Dancer, and again, I don't prefer it as much. Farming it up is, I'll admit it, it's annoying, and you don't always have the chance to farm it up after you die. A team fight might get forced or something, and you're going to need to get there as soon as possible, and you are going to die as Graves. I mean, more so than any other AD carrier, again, getting up close with the enemy, so just be wary about that, and don't get too cocky as him, but play a few games as him, and you'll get the hang of him. It takes a few games to learn how to combo his abilities correctly, but if you use the build I told you, and the runes and masteries and everything, you should be fine with him. I think he's really strong, and yeah. So thanks for watching. Tell me what you thought. I did get a new mic, so hopefully it sounds a little better. And subscribe if you want to stay up to date with the videos. Thanks a lot, guys.